What a weekend. So much to get to today on Let's Bet It. I'm Alex Glaze, joined by Jared Smith. Jared, how can you not be romantic about football?
I had that on my notes too. I write notes about my week 4 wrap-ups, week 3 wrap-ups, and that was one of the first lines. Aaron Rodgers is, I get very zen. We were doing some, the show with Ross Tucker and Chris Rose, and we were talking about how he looks like a yoga instructor now. And I got very zen vibes from him last night, but that was a great line.
He's just so calm and just internalizes everything. Just a great game last night. Great way to finish off a fantastic Sunday. Looking at today's card, we're going to dive into tonight's Monday night football game, of course, and take a look back at the big headlines from Sunday as well. We are going to have Jim Monis on to talk through all things football as well, and we're going to finish things off with our picks of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And Jared, before we get into Monday Night Football, I want to take a look at the corrections on this Monday morning here, because we are seeing a lot of movement, specifically when you look at some of the big boys. You're talking about the Packers trending upward, Chargers trending upward. Then we got the Bucks and Chiefs trending the other way. How do you like what you're seeing on Monday morning?
Yeah, I always find it fascinating. One of the first things I do before I start prepping for this show on a Sunday night heading into Monday morning is I'll take a look, and the Superbook does a really good job getting these out. A bunch of the sports books, keep them up throughout the weekend, but some of them reopen the lines. And I'm always fascinated to see which teams move the most, which teams don't move a lot. For example, Arizona, who had a pretty interesting win yesterday, kind of back and forth. They didn't move an inch in their, correction here on Monday. But you mentioned those other teams that did. I think the Packers are the one that stand out the most. Anytime you go on the road and you beat a team that you're not supposed to beat, and they were 3.5 point underdogs in that game, and you do it in the way that Aaron Rodgers and company did it, where they were behind late, they actually were ahead early, and it was an emphatic win. That's a line that's going to move the market a little bit. I think the Chargers are certainly an interesting mover, because we see weakness now with the Chiefs in that division. So all of a sudden, if you're going to tell me that Kansas City might not win the AFC West, well, that changes the way the playoff format might get constructed. And I'm not saying that the Chargers are going to win the AFC West, but there is weakness in Kansas City. So we saw that line move. We also saw Tampa. Their odds almost got cut in half, plus 450 to 7-1. And again, very early in the year, but I do think Tampa and Kansas City, last year's finalists, and I kind of expected this. They don't have a whole lot to play for in week 3. They know they've been to the end of the rainbow. They know what it takes.
They're not worried about week 3.
They're not. And they played 2 tough teams yesterday. Kansas City played a really tough team of the Chargers with a great quarterback who's young and new head coach. And Tampa Bay played the Rams, who I would say right now is the best team in football. So I don't want to read too much into those games individually. But if now you're going to give me a little more juice on Tampa Bay and Kansas City to win the Super Bowl, which you are, I'd be starting to get curious about some of those numbers as they continue to drift down.
Absolutely. We're going to get more into those Sunday night games, or those Sunday games, a little bit later in the show. Let's first get to Monday night. We got a big one tonight. The Dallas Cowboys right now 3-point favorites against the Eagles. Total set at 51.5 as we record this. It's a huge week for unders. 11-4 so far this week in week 3. And as we turn the page to tonight's game, something to keep in mind, though, with that total set at 51.5, overs 7-1 so far this season in prime time. So I want to start with the total here. What are you thinking? Because right now, I mean, everything's telling me over. Jerry World, I just see over, but I really can just see this being a grinded out game for the under, and the Cowboys getting back to running the football in a big game for Zeke. So I'm not really sure which side I'm on just yet.
I think the number says over. In fact, when we were starting to tape this show, I saw a couple of shops even came down to 51. And 51 is a very key total. It's the second most fallen on total in the NFL, 44 being the highest, and those are very close. So I would say 51 because it's an elevated total. If it drops to that with an opening number of 52.5 last week, now down to 51.5, but again, I'm seeing some 51s. I would lean over there. This game, to me, does feel like it's going to be a wide open game. So here's how I see it. So both teams are moving it really well. The Cowboys, 6.4 yards per play. Eagles, 6.2 yards per play. The Eagles moved it really well against the Niners last week, too. They moved it just as well as the Packers did last night. They each had 6 yards per play, a flat 6 yards per play against San Francisco. Packers last night, Eagles last week against the Niners. So Philly's moving it pretty well. And again, this total dropping to 51 now gives me a little more, okay, it's got to that key number. It's like when a spread moves to 3. I feel a lot better about playing the -3 instead of the -3.5. The one thing that does concern me about the Eagles, the offensive line injuries are starting to become prevalent. Brooks, Mailata, that's interesting. But on the other side, the Cowboys have some defensive line issues. Lawrence, Watkins, both out. I don't know what we're going to see from Micah Parsons. They're kind of moving him around like a queen on the chessboard.
Yeah, he's going to be everywhere.
He's going to be everywhere, and he was everywhere last week. So that's the guy to keep an eye on tonight on the defensive side for Dallas. But here's the motivation with this game. The NFC East is weak. The Giants are terrible. Washington looks a little down compared to last year. I think these are the 2 best teams in the NFC East. And I think they both know that. And I think you're going to see both teams kind of, open things up tonight and really show you how good they are on offense. And I know you really like this guy, Devontae Smith, and I know he's on your card this week. Here's the stat I'll give you. The last time he played a game at Jerry's World was the college football playoff semis against Notre Dame. He had 7 for $130 and 3 tutties. He knows how to elevate his game in the big moments, and he's got that fast track at Jerry's World tonight. I would say over would be my play if I had to pick a side or a total here. The props we'll have a little fun with after this, but I could see some points in this game tonight.
I definitely could too. The thing for me, when I look at a total over 50, right, my brain is telling me that means both teams are going to have to contribute, and I think that the Eagles are going to have their chances. I'm struggling. I like Jalen. I really do. Yeah. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to have that firepower with that offense, because we've seen them stall out at times this year. They're not going to be able to do that tonight. So that's the only thing that's kind of making me kind of weary about when I look at the total. But when I look at the number and 3, I'm laying the 3 with the Cowboys tonight, even though interesting stat here. Underdogs 30-17 against the spread. So, these lines are really sharp, but it came down from 3.5 to 3. I'll take 3 all day.
Yeah, and I think what you've seen from Philly, you've seen them struggle in some of the bigger spots. They blew out Atlanta. Obviously, although Atlanta, I would say they showed you a little bit of fight yesterday against the Giants.
It was the Giants.
Yeah, and it's, talk about a dumpster fire, that game. But I do think Philly, when the lights have gotten a little brighter, they moved it well against San Francisco, but they weren't able to finish it. And I think the Eagles are going to move the ball tonight. And I don't know if maybe in the red zone is where things tighten up a little bit for them. And I agree that both teams are going to have to put up at least 20 points for this total to even come close tonight. It's not going to be a 44-10 kind of game where you're going to get an over because one team just absolutely goes crazy. You're going to have to get 3 touchdowns from both teams if you want to hit this over tonight. But I do like what I see from Jalen Hurts. And I think if you want to play this game from a prop perspective, I think his passing touchdowns prop plus money on the 1.5. I like getting 1.5 plus money to the over, because in the game that we played today, and not that I wish I played it, the game that they played today out on the field that I wish that I could play, it's obviously a passing game. And I think he's going to have a big night in the air and with his legs if Philly wants to win this game. And you're giving me plus money on the 1.5 touchdowns, which is nice, to the over. And also, they haven't moved up his rushing total prop yet. It's been 53-54 each of the first 3 weeks. And he's gone over in now 2 straight weeks. And I think he's got a chance to go over again tonight. And you mentioned Devontae Smith. So I have a great prop on him. I like your angle, 2 receptions, yards, all that stuff. But for him to have the most receiving yards in this game is almost 5-1. And don't get me wrong, there's some great receivers on the other side of the ball for Dallas. But I just get this vibe that if it's gonna be one of those nights for Philly, it's gonna be Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts making big plays with their legs, with their arms, etc. And I could see Devontae Smith having a big game tonight.
I like those props, especially the Jalen Hurts over 1.5 touchdowns at plus money, because you got to think also those 15 scripted plays, if they can come out with a touchdown on that opening drive, or those first couple plays, you're sitting pretty. You know, but yeah, for my prop that I'm looking at is Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions on FanDuel right now, plus money. He had 6 receptions on 8 targets in week 1. Week 2, just 2 receptions, but still had the seven targets. So the targets are there. And like you mentioned, I think that if Philly's going to be in this game, a big reason why is going to be because of Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. So
Yeah.
I like those over 4.5 receptions. I don't even think that's going to be a sweat tonight. I was looking at Amari Cooper's stats, and I was wondering, or his, props. And I was kind of, because they were a little funny. Like, anytime touchdown for him is plus money. I think his yards was like 70.5 or something. I was like, so this something seems off. Cracked rib that he's going to be playing with tonight. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Also, if you're looking at maybe some CeeDee Lamb props, that's interesting too, because his yards right now is 77.5. So I mean, it's interesting when you look at some of the numbers and kind of figure out like why is this doesn't look right.
I'm curious who Slay will be on tonight. I'm curious how they're going to play that, because when you look at the Cowboys offense, the Cowboys are a tough offense to do props for, because they do both. They, unlike most
teams, can do whatever they want.
Exactly. That have an identity. Like when you're facing the Chiefs, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Either they're going to win or lose the game. It's not going to be a running game. But when you look at the Cowboys, they, after what they did week 1 against the Bucs, they have the ability to open things up and throw. What did Dak throw? Like 100 times in that game? Or they could do what they did last week against the Chargers and bleed the clock. So it's hard for me to kind of push the narrative to one side. I do think if Dallas gets a lead and they're running the ball well, it's bad for the over, and it's bad for any Amari Cooper or any of those receiving props. I would lean, if I had to pick one or the two, Cooper or Lamb. I think Lamb's looked better. I think he's looked better early, and I would lean to him. But I don't know how the Eagles are going to play it. Are they going to drop Slay into his zone? Are they going to shadow Cooper? Do they think Cooper's a little banged up because of the injury, and they're going to put Slay on Lamb? It's a chess match defensively for the Eagles tonight, and I think almost I'd rather play a live prop, which some of the books do offer that, which is very intriguing. But tough to really peg which way the Cowboys are going to go with their offensive scheme tonight.
Agreed. And anytime you throw an injury in there, and
100%.
Things can get a little wonky.
That's the great equalizer.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look back at Sunday's game. So many places we could start, but I think where I want to start. Justin Tucker, 66-yard field goal to beat the Lions. I mean, they don't cover, but they win, so I'm happy. I mean, that was the most insane kick that I've obviously ever seen in history. But the Ravens getting points against the Broncos next week. What am I missing here? Why are the Ravens getting points?
Well, I think
I don't believe in the Broncos.
Yeah, and listen, I think the Broncos have kind of showed you who they are through the first 3 weeks. They're a team that's going to smack you in the mouth, and they're going to play really tough defense, and they're going to make you beat them. They are not – Teddy Bridgewater is not going to make the mistake to beat himself and to beat the rest of the team. You are going to have to outplay Denver. The injury scared me a little bit this week with them. That's why I actually picked the Jets. Don't get me started on the team.
No, we're going to get into that.
Yeah, I won't. I need Dr. Jim to come on and give me therapy after that game yesterday. But we have a very interesting situation brewing in Denver. Every bookmaker we talked to said the Broncos were a Super Bowl contender, maybe the third favorite on the board if they got Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not comparing Teddy Bridgewater to Aaron Rodgers, but he's playing.
He has a good people around him. There's
incredible supporting
good
cast.
Foundation. Yeah,
but the injuries do matter to me, and you get Judy out, Darby's out, Chubb is out. They just lost Josie Jewell. Those injuries, they might be able to overcome them against the Jets, who had one of the most lifeless performances I've ever seen on offense. But the Ravens are a different animal. And I could see the Broncos, if there is a team that's going to match the Broncos' physicality, it's the Ravens. So, and also that Ravens defense, I think, is going to give Teddy Bridgewater some problems. So so the Ravens were a favorite in this game last week. Now the line reopens and now they're an underdog. It's only moved a point across the 0 line. So I'm not going crazy yet, but I said I saw a 2.5 at circa, plus 2.5 for Baltimore. That interests me. If we get it to 2.5, I will definitely be back in the Ravens this week.
Let's move on to another game here. This is one that we were both on. The Chargers beat the Chiefs. Yeah. We took the points, didn't need them. But let's overreact a little bit because it's Monday, and that's what we do on Mondays, right? So who does this game say more about? Does this tell you more about the Chiefs and maybe they're not maybe as dominant as we thought they would be? Or does this say more about the Chargers and maybe that gap between the Chiefs and everybody else is closing up a little bit?
Tremendous question. I'll be honest. I thought the Chiefs were a little down. The numbers didn't lie in week one. They were outgained by Cleveland. They should have probably lost that game if it wasn't for that fluky punt that the dude dropped, and then Kansas City just kind of went nuts and it hit Tyreek Hill. That game was on the knife's edge, and Cleveland's looked really good, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but they lost that game. Kansas City did not win that game. The following week, the Chiefs are going to have these games where they look really, really good because they have the best player in the league still, I think, Patrick Mahomes. But there's some chinks in the armor, and the offensive line, the defense has really struggled. They're giving up a ton of yards per play. The Chargers, that win yesterday tells me more about the Chargers because they have struggled to win close games throughout this whole time. They've been in every game, and they're always right there, but they always seem to struggle to get across the finish line. They did something yesterday that they haven't done in a long time. They didn't go play conservative. They went for the throat. They went for the touchdown late. They didn't kick the field goal, and they kicked that door in of that kind of glass ceiling, burst through it. That was kind of, hey, we can't win these close games. We can get right there, but we can't win them. That's why it speaks to the Chargers, I think, a little bit more.
100% agree. And you had a great Sunday. I mean, I'm looking right now. Rams plus 1.5, cash. Dolphins plus 4, cash. Saints plus 3, cash. I was on the other side of that one, so good for you. Falcons plus 3, cash. Chargers plus 7, cash. One of your losses, though. The Jets, you get it at 10, 10.5? What'd you get it at?
I got in the Super Contest, I had 10. That was my own. I went 4-1 in the Super Contest. That was the only loss. That was.
Talk to me. I mean, come on, talk to me about that one here. I mean, the Jets. Are you done betting the Jets now? I mean, they're getting
because they're going to give us these lines. You can't
7.5 against the Titans in Week 4.
You can never in the NFL. You can never write teams off because these guys are professionals and they have a lot of pride in what they do. In college, I think they hang their heads a little more. In the NFL, these guys are pros, so I can't write them off because they're going to give us some. I thought we got a very favorable line last week. That line moved from 7.5 to 10.5. That's why I grabbed that extra 3 points of value. But the Jets and the Giants, it's embarrassing. I live in the city. I've been in the city now for almost 10 years. I've been a fan of the Jets forever. I've had my family's Giants fans too. So like I've been following
New
these
York
two
football
teams
in general is just embarrassing.
Well, it's kind of funny because I had a friend in college and he was a Bills fan and he's from this area. And I asked him, I was like, why are you a Bills fan? You like the Jets or Giants? He's like, no, because my dad didn't want to root for a team from Jersey. The Bills are the only team that actually plays in New York. And I'll be honest, you can kick both those Jets and Giants teams, send them to send them to the moon for all I care. In the NFL, they have the worst record since the start of 2017. Jets and Giants tied for the worst record, 18-49 in the last 3 seasons plus. I mean, at this point, the Giants are even in worse shape, I think, because of their coach.
I think I saw something about the Giants have never, and over the past 5 years, had a winning record at any point. I think.
Yeah, it was probably the last time they had a winning record was the boat trip game. The boat trip was like
the boat trip.
That was the downfall of the Giants franchise. And now Odell's doing great things in Cleveland. Who would have thunk it?
Oh my gosh. So many other games we could talk about here. I want to get into Justin Fields because I think he's getting buried a little unfairly on this Monday here. That Bears team, they stink. That offensive line, that scheme, the game plan. No one did Justin Fields any favors in his first career start. Now, he's got this bad rap about him, and maybe Andy Dalton really isn't that bad and all this stuff. I mean, what are you thinking about Justin Fields? I mean, not a great game from him, but I think a little bit of an overreaction when
100%.
You look at obviously such a very small sample size.
It was his first career start on the road against, I don't know if they're Hall of Famers, but Clowney and Garrett are, I would say at this stage of their careers, borderline Hall of Famers. Garrett is on the way to being a Hall of Famer if he keeps playing the way he is. Clowney's had some issues with injuries over the years, but he's been a really productive player in his career as well. And listen to this quote. I read this quote this morning, and I put out this tweet that said, I think Matt Nagy is this year's Adam Gase. So this is what Myles Garrett told the media after the game. Quote, Actually, this is a secondhand quote from, I think, Mike Florio. He told me that the Browns defense was surprised by the way that Justin Fields was used, or more accurately, the way he wasn't used. They didn't move him around. They didn't get him out of the pocket. They didn't roll him out. They didn't take advantage of his mobility. It made it easier for the defensive linemen to get to him. Oh, by the way, Myles Garrett, team record, 4.5 sacks in the game.
4.5 sacks.
So to me, that they need to scheme better, and Matt Nagy needs to do a better job understanding that Justin Fields cannot be running the same offense that Andy Dalton runs. They're two different players. The best coaches in the league are the ones that adapt to the skill set of their players, not take their scheme and make the players adapt to them. And I think Matt Nagy has a problem on his hands with that issue right now.
Could not agree more. I think as a team, didn't they have 9 sacks? I mean,
it's insane.
It was
move the guy around. He's one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he's got one of the best set of legs for sure. Move him around. Jeez.
It was brutal. They did him no favors. And I just want to finish this up here with let's talk about the GOAT here. Tom Brady. I mean, listen, they didn't look good against the Rams. The Rams looked fantastic. I mean, you said earlier, one of the best teams, if not the best team in football. I think I'm right there with you. I think Matt Stafford put the whole league, the whole world on notice. This is who Matt Stafford has been. You know, it was a perfect Sunday because this is who Matt Stafford has been, and that's who the Lions have been for my entire life. It's just been those two guys, and now they've gone their separate ways and they're going down two different directions. But how impressed were you by the Rams and how they looked against a really good Bucs team? Very impressed.
But I will say this. The Bucs outgained the Rams in that game. Tom Brady threw for 400 yards. I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater with the Bucs, but I do think LA is really good. And I think this game on Sunday between the Rams and the Cardinals, I don't think the Cardinals are going to win the game. But I think if they cover the number and it's a close game and it's back and forth, and let's say the Rams win it late, it'll tell a lot about how far Arizona and how good that NFC West is. Seattle's a little down. San Francisco, I think, is good, maybe not great. I think Arizona's really good with Kyler Murray. I think the Rams with Stafford healthy are maybe the best. I would say right now, if you had asked me today who the best looking team is in the NFL, I would say the Rams.
The Rams. I think for me, you just kind of look at it like you're a kid with a toy, right? Like the Bucs are the toy, but then there's something shiny over there. There's something new. Yeah. It's like, ooh, I want that. And that's the Rams. Everyone now is just kind of like looking at the Rams. And I'm looking at, we're talking MVP because I think Kyler Murray and Matt Stafford are two guys that plus 800 right now. They're, I think they're worth.
Whoever wins that division, I think deserves to be the MVP just because of how hard it's going to be to win that division.
The best division in football right now.
100%. There's no doubt about that. The AFC West is looking pretty good too. But it's kind of funny. Just head west, my friend. That's where the best football is being played right now in the NFL.
Absolutely. All right, let's welcome in our friend Jim Monos to talk more about tonight's game. Thank you for taking some time to chat with us. And for those who don't know, Jim Monos, a former NFL scout and front office executive. He sees the game way different than Jared and I, so we bring him in to enlighten
Dr.
us.
Jim.
Dr. Jim, we're going to do a little bit of therapy before we get into Monday night's game because, listen, there were some bad beats this weekend, and, as usual, I'm on the wrong side of a lot of them.
Stop.
So, Jim, Jim, let me just lay back for a second here.
Listen, make yourself comfortable, Alex.
My best bet of the week, right? The under in the Wisconsin-Notre Dame game. I got it at 46. 31 fourth-quarter points from Notre Dame. From Notre Dame, what was it? 2 pick sixes, a kick for
the second pick six was just – because the over already hit, and it just twisted the knife deeper.
Brutal stuff.
Ever since I bet the Saints money line against the Vikings on the Stephon Diggs.
Oh no.
Okay. That changed me as a gambler. All you can do is laugh.
Yes.
We have tonight. You have to just get it out of your head. You have to somehow laugh it off and move on to the next one because it's going to happen again. You don't know when. We don't know when it's going to happen. It could happen tonight. It could be a prop, bad beat. You just never know. But I'm telling you, it's every weekend. Jared, would you agree? I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. And the thing is, Jim, and, we're human beings. So are they playing. So we feel it. And now I'm not going to say that the guys on the field feel the beats, but if you don't think the bad beats, if you don't think that the guys on the Saints felt worse about the Stephon Diggs play than you did losing the bet. And that is the human element, the psychology.
I would say it's equal. Equally, yes. I think
going to the Super Bowl or losing $100, same thing, right? And so these guys feel it too, and the psychology of what happens on the field, it matters, and it's hard to take that into account. But that's why people that have been on the other side of it, like you, give us so much insight.
No, I've been in the locker room after those losses, and you're right. They do take it that hard, and it is. There's people's jobs at stakes. There's livelihoods. It's heartbreaking to see how hard they work and they're putting their life on the line in football. I mean, I know it's a little dramatic to say that.
No, it's not. It's really not. These guys are modern day gladiators.
Right. Absolutely. These guys are getting knocked out left and right in this league.
You see that Devontae Adams hit last? I mean, literally life on the line here. I mean,
exactly.
Well, we're not going to get into that, but I mean, I don't need the close up of his eyes when he's laying on the ground. Let me just throw that out there right now.
No, and it's true. It's true, and that's why and you made a great point too, Jared, about these guys every week. Like, don't throw away some of these teams like Jets. I've been on these 8-8 teams, these 7 and when you're 5-10 and you're going into that last week. I'm telling you, they still prepare just like they would if they were trying to get in the
Well, they got to put the tape together because they still have to put stuff on tape.
No doubt.
They have a lot of pride. These guys have a lot of pride. We think, because we're on the wrong side of a beat, that they think that they don't care. They care. The amount of pride that goes into the worst teams in the league's preparation, it matters. And I do think that the NFL, more so than college, I think college, it's very volatile. I don't think the same way about the college lines I do about the NFL. But in the NFL, if you're going to move a line 4, 5, 6 points in a week's time because of one game that happened on Sunday, that's where you really find the value in this league, because Jim, the margin for error, the amount of talent on these teams, it's razor thin what separates the best team and the worst team.
Oh, it's every week. We talk about week-to-week league, erase it after this week and start over and go through your numbers that you care about, dig into your game, treat it like it's a brand new game. Get last week out of your head. It doesn't even exist.
Yeah. All right, Jim, let's get to tonight. I mean, let's just Cowboys laying 3 points at home, total 51.5. Who you got?
I'm going to take Philly tonight. I got it at the 3.5. This is a game that, and I think we can go back. We could talk yourself into either team in this game. I really believe that.
Agreed.
What is concerning me, Jared, we talk about yards per play. Dallas's defense right now in the first 2 weeks is 29th in yards per play, and their third down defense has not been good. I believe it's 23rd right now. That's a good recipe for the Eagles, who have played against Atlanta and San Fran, especially San Fran, and they moved the ball but didn't finish. Yeah. I like Hurts to be able to extend these drives tonight, and this Eagle offense is different. It's a little different than what Dallas has seen.
I want to push back a little bit for you on that Dallas defense, because I think they're getting a bad rap. I mean, I hear your numbers. Yeah. They're going against Tom Brady and Justin Herbert. I think that you got to take that into consideration as well when you look at what they've done. And they're getting turnovers. I think 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. I mean, so they're turning the ball over. They're creating those opportunities. They're giving up the yards. So I think that they're getting a little bit of a bad rap these early weeks of the season. I think Dan Quinn's doing a good job with that defense for what he's got.
I agree. I'm a Dan Quinn fan, and I do think he's done a nice job. The other thing they haven't done, and I agree, going against those quarterbacks, you're going to give up yards, but they haven't got home on the sacks. They're not getting home. Sure. And so Eagles have a good offensive line already. Jalen Hurts will be protected. Jalen Hurts is kind of a guy I'm very intrigued with right now. These first 2, he's doing some really good things. Agreed. And I think they can take some chances down the field against Dallas and have some success tonight. I know you guys were hitting it early with Smith, and
I love Smith tonight.
I like Rieger on the props as over 37.5 yards. That's kind of my prop tonight. I think because if he got inbounds against San Fran on the play, which was incredible play, but that's the type of things I think will happen tonight. But this is going to be a fun game to watch, I think.
Do you have a favorite team to look at that you watch and you bet and you're like, man, this team just suits my style? Like, is there a team out there that you've maybe been in the locker rooms and you've seen kind of the construction of some of these players, and then you can see it kind of go from what you see on the practice field, and then it kind of transforms into success on the actual game field on Sunday?
Well, for last year and this year, the team that has been, it's funny, this is my ex team but The Bills in the first.
Oh, they look great.
The Buffalo Bills. Amazing. Pay attention to their first halves. They are blowing people out in the first. They did it last year, and they're doing it again this year. And it's been my little secret where I have just been banging that just to get a win under my belt before the witching hour or whatever we say.
That's what you call it later.
Yeah.
Like I just get me one before everything else goes crazy. But I'm telling you, the Bills and Teddy Bridgewater is amazing against the spread.
He really is. It's almost unbelievable at this point.
But the Bills' first half has been a nice little secret.
All right, Jim, talk to me a little bit before we let you go here about these rookie quarterbacks. Rough go, 1-7 for these dudes. Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. It's been a rough start to their NFL careers. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing rookie quarterbacks. I wouldn't panic if I was any of these teams. It is very common. I think we saw a little bit. Herbert and Burrow actually, I mean, they kind of broke the norm. They're giving us a little false sense of how rookies play.
Yeah.
It is a hard league, especially coming from college football, which is completely different than the NFL, although it is getting a little more similar. They are morphing together a little bit, the styles of play. But these guys give it time. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. You guys hit it perfectly. You have to game plan, use Fields the right way.
Help him.
Help him. Exactly.
I think that's more Nagy than Fields.
Agreed.
I don't knock Justin Fields at all. No. I don't even knock Wilson because I think his coach is telling him, just go for it. Throw the ball, go, make the mistakes. I think Trevor Lawrence is actually the one that I don't want to say concerned, but I just don't like the scheme. I don't like Urban Meyer as a head coach. I don't know if that's going to work, and I think it's going to hurt him long term. I think the I think the Jets, and I definitely think the Bears, and obviously the Patriots, I think those quarterbacks are going to be fine long term.
I agree. And Urban, I wrote about that in my column last week. Urban Meyer, I agree.
I don't feel it. I don't feel the energy. I don't feel the vibe. That's my bigger of all the quarterbacks. I'd say the Jags long term concerns me the most.
I had a bonus question for you, Jim, here because I wanted to bury Jimmy G this morning. I wanted to bury him this morning, but that last drive was incredible. I think he was playing for his job on that drive. If he wasn't able to score on that last drive there, we were going to see Trey Lance next week. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I'm going to disagree because not that they don't want him in. He's going to be in. I don't know when. We don't know when. He's going to be in. You don't trade up and take him that high. He's going to play. He's going to start. But there's something that they don't feel comfortable yet with him to be able to do the full offense that Shanahan needs to do. Because it's a lot. It's a lot to take in for a rookie, and he just doesn't want to rush it. He sees it day in and day out. He would pull if he felt comfortable, he would do it tomorrow. It tells you that Shanahan's like, hey, we need to see a little more. And like we said, Garoppolo, I know, he drives you nuts. There's certain guys that just drive you. Kirk Cousins, I'll never bet on Vikings. I won't bet on Vikings. Because if I take them,
that's when you get
They look great yesterday, though.
That's what I'm saying. I would have had – I don't do their games.
Take them. Yeah.
I don't do their games. I will not do Vikings games.
All right, thanks, Jim. Now it's time for our plays of the day. But before we get to our personal plays, Jared, why don't you tell us a little about the Pickswise play of the day that is on the website right now?
Yeah, 3-star play. I'll be honest. Don't get me wrong. Our buddy Wise Guy, Matt Weisenfeld, does a great job with this stuff. And if you want to play some baseball tonight, this is how I would go. But it's a really lame baseball card tonight. Later this week, especially starting tomorrow. That's when the final push will happen. But I think there's only 8 or 9 games. And like none of them involve teams that are really hunting for the playoffs. But Wise Guy is on the Rockies run line today. They are at home. They are taking on the Nationals. Listen, again, it's not a play I would make, but German Marquez to me is the one Rockies pitcher I would be willing to bet on. I just don't like laying runs at home. That's why I'm not personally playing this, but it's an even money bet. So I like the fact that you're not laying juice and laying runs. And the Nationals have not been good this year. They've been really bad. And Josiah Gray making his first career start at Coors Field. He's a young guy. And even Max Scherzer last week struggled at Coors Field pitching. So if you're not used to that environment at altitude, it can be a struggle. And I certainly can see the Rockies having putting up a big number against Gray tonight. But our guy Wise Guy is playing Colorado on the run line. That's the MLB 3-star Pickswise 3-star play of the day.
That's not a kind stadium for pitchers. No, pitchers don't have a lot of fun.
Not for rookie ones making their first ever start. That's really tough.
Yeah. My play of the day is Zeke Elliott, anytime touchdown, getting plus money right now. He's a starting running back, plus 100. Big game coming from Zeke tonight because you look at the Eagles, their first two games. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to run the football, and if they choose to go down that route today, Zeke's going to have a big game. I think this is a good spot for him. We've seen the Cowboys have the ability to lean on that run game like they did in the Chargers game, and I think we see a little bit of that tonight. So if you're giving me plus money, listen, and we saw it this week. Zeke hears all the chirping. People want to get into his pockets, talk about how much money he's making. Zeke Elliott, big game tonight. So anytime touchdown, plus 100, I like it.
That's a buy low spot. You won't see him in plus money territory in that bet too often. I went back and forth in this. I think the props we gave out earlier in the show, if I had to pick one I like the best, it's the Hurts touchdown prop at plus money. But kind of talking through this game and hearing what we heard from Jim and then my own personal thoughts on where the line analysis is, I think the over is a really good spot tonight. It's down to 51 at two shops. I saw MGM and DK hanging 51 and a half, I would say market wide, but there's a couple of rogue 51s out there you can grab. That is a key total in the NFL. It's probably the highest total percentage wise that we see numbers land on. So 51 is a big total, and you're seeing the look ahead line come down from 52 and a half. So you're getting about 1.5 points now of value, and it's hit that key number of 51. I think if you don't like playing the props and you want to play the props in the more broader scheme of the game, I do think this is going to be a wide open game. I think these are the two best teams in the NFC East. I think these are the two best quarterbacks in the NFC East. I really like what I've seen from Jalen Hurts so far. Dak Prescott's looked unafraid coming back from his injuries. 51's relatively low considering the defensive problems I think Dallas has had this year, and I would lean to the over in this game. I think of all the props, of all the plays, over 51 is probably the safest.
Okay, I like it. Before we go, real quick, because we did our little therapy session earlier, I can ask you just a personal question here.
Please do.
When you're going into this mentally, Monday, is this a new week for you, or is this still week 3? Like, how do you look at Monday? Because I'm looking at this like new week, fresh week.
I think you even take it one step further. I think every day is a new day. Like from Saturday to Sunday, you can have a great college football day, and I've had this before. Awesome college football day. You feel great, over enthusiastic, firing off Sunday bets on late Saturday night, and then it just all goes to crap the next day. And then you turn the page from Sunday to Monday. So I think in gambling, the psychology of gambling, in my opinion, matters more than your picks. How you handle, how you adjust, how you react matters more than the outcome on the field. You have no control over the outcome of the games on the field. You have control over how you internalize those things and how you react to it and how you respond. That is what you can empower yourself with. We're going to talk a lot about the psychology of gambling on this show. To me, it's every day. You wake up, new day, fresh start.
I like that. Big game tonight. We're on it. And be sure to tune in tomorrow and check us out on the YouTube channel, on social media. He's Jared Smith. I'm Alex Glaze. Big game tonight. Let's bet it.